So, right off the bat, you gonna trust a face like this? Look at this. You gonna trust a face like this? Let's see what's going on here.
Things got heated on Capitol Hill. Y'all, they were dealing with the issue of DEI. And let me tell you something. Ooh, two of the black women on this panel were not having any of it. First up, here is Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas, bringing the funk.
So many of you know that I practice law, but some of you don't realize that I actually was a business major out of Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee. And the emphasis that I got in my business degree was on finance. And as I traveled the country,
so one of the first things the victims do is they just throw their credentials out their head. So it's kind of like, y'all need to listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. So let's continue. Throw your credentials in somebody's face. Do you know who I am? I studied. I am able to take form tests and really structured things. And I have credentials. I have degrees. So that means I'm credible and I'm smart and I'm great. And y'all just need to listen to me.
Campaigning this election cycle, one of the things that I talked about was this idea that in finance, we always promote this idea of diversity. If you know anything about a portfolio, the one thing that you want to do is make sure that it's as diverse as possible, because at times certain stocks will perform better than others, and they will exemplify various strengths and weaknesses. And together, a diverse portfolio is usually what any good finance person would promote. They wouldn't promote that you solely invest in vanilla wafers, believing that that is going to be the strongest portfolio, but instead they may want to add some chocolate cake and some Twinkies into the mix to make sure that we have the best portfolio, because there will be different preferences by different people, and again, there will be different strengths. But as I sit here and I think about what we say and what I'm hearing as it relates to diversity when it comes to anything outside of making money. And to be clear, we are losing GDP every time we try to push back on this idea of diversity, because all of us bring something different to the table. But you consistently said over and over the word oppression, and every time that you said it, it was.
And so diversity, I guess that's important, but the way that diversity is presented today is just everything is just left up to chance. You do have to have some type of structure and some type of guidelines basically for anything to progress. Now, what you do is that you adjust those things going forward. Now, the way that this DEI and these type of things go, everything is ambiguous, which is whatever we come up with, we'll just throw that in there, and this, that, and the other. You're kind of flying by the seat of your pants. No, you need structure. You need goals. You need deadlines to make things work. You just can't just. And of course, different ideas, that's the best way to do things. That is the best way to do things. Long as the focus is on the actual goal of what we're trying to do, not identity, your color, your sexual preference, your race, none of that shit. We're working. We're trying to accomplish something that's has nothing to do with us, really.
It's almost as if I was hearing nails on a chalkboard, because it seems like you don't understand the definition of oppression, and I'd ask you to just refer to Google to help you out. Oppression is the prolonged, cruel, or unjust treatment or control. That is the definition of oppression. And so as I sit here as a black woman who practiced civil rights, let me tell you the reason that my colleagues wanted to make sure you understood the same.
As a black woman who practice civil rights. So you're speaking for all black women. That shit gets on my nerves. There's no way you can speak for all black women. Because I would venture to say most black women probably think like you, but that's only 50.1%. You still have a 49.9% that probably don't think like you.
Black history that your side of the aisle wants to delete out of classrooms is because you can then misuse words like oppression. There has been no oppression for the white man in this country.
Oh, boy.
You tell me which white men were dragged out of their homes. You tell me which one of them got dragged all the way across an ocean and told that you are going to go and work. We are going to steal your wives. We are going to rape your wives. That didn't happen. That is oppression. We didn't ask to be here. We not the same migrants that y'all constantly come up against. We didn't run away from home. We were stolen. So yeah, we are going to sit here and be offended when you want to sit here and act like
we were stolen is what she said, and of course she's talking about slavery. My whole thing with slavery is if there's not a market, there's not a buyer. Black folks were enslaved. We'll just go with Africa. Black folks were enslaved even before the so-called white man came over there and got them and brought them to the new world. None of this shit is good. You have to be some type of evil person to enslave someone in the first place, which will go back to, let's start with the origin. Africans were enslaving their own people. And the way that it started is there was wars and things of that nature, and they would go into these different villages and stuff like that and kill all these people, and then they would enslave the women so they can continue to procreate and these type of things. Point is, if there's no market, which Africans created, then there's no buyer, which the white man bought. But it starts with the origin. And Jasmine Crockett, you a pretty rich person. You can go back anytime. Since you say you didn't ask to be here, you can go back.
And don't let it escape you that it is white men on this side of the aisle telling us, people of color on this side of the aisle, that y'all are the ones being oppressed, that y'all are the ones that are being harmed. That's not the definition of oppression. You tell me the prolonged, cruel, or unjust treatment that you've had, and we can have a conversation.
You could start with Exodus.
The final thing that I will say on this particular issue, two things. There is an article from The Guardian, and it is a little old. It's from 2021. So I apologize, but it said that back then, just 3 years ago, white men represent 30% of the population, but 62% of office holders. These are the issues that we are constantly looking at and recognizing and trying to say, is this just? I can't even tell you how many white men have served in this chamber, but I can tell you that I am only the 55th black woman to be elected to Congress. And so when you want to talk about history and pretend as if it was so long ago, it wasn't. Because again, I am just number 55.
And it's not about history, it's about the careers that not necessarily black women, is just that anybody pursues. Black women are not pursuing careers to be politicians, to be under this pressure, to be under this scrutiny, to come in here and do these type of things. It's been most white men, because those are the careers that they have pursued. You cannot sit here and tell me in America, no matter the color, any profession, job, whatever, you want it, you could not pursue it. Now, there's no guarantee of outcome, but there is a guarantee that you can pursue and go after the position that you want. These DEI people are looking for guarantees of outcome. There is never a guarantee of outcome in anything in life. You're trying to make the rules as such to where there is some type of guarantee in outcome. There's no guarantee in outcome. You can go to the car dealership. It depends on how you want to purchase. You can have all the cash ready and this, that, and the other. If they don't want to sell you the car, they don't have to sell you the car. You go in there to lease it. If your credit is 1-2 points off, they don't have to lease the car to you. You can go in there and try to finance the car. You got the down payment, everything's in order. If one thing is wrong, they don't have to finance the car for you. The bank, go to a different bank. They don't have to do it. Y'all looking for outcomes. And that's just not realistic. The more important thing is opportunity. Just opportunity. Start there. And then you take the ball and you run with it. There's no guarantee of outcomes in anything in life, really.
Finally, when we start to talk about what do these numbers do, as we're trying to say the diversity, equity, and inclusion is the problem, the reality is that when it comes to financial performance, companies with more diverse workforces are more likely to outperform their competitors. Companies in the top quartile for racial diversity are 35% more likely to outperform their peers on profitability. Companies with diverse executive teams are 25% more likely to generate greater profits. Diverse companies earn 2.5 times higher cash flow per employee. Diversity works. And until you can show me data that says otherwise, I think that we need to go back to being a country that listens to experts and gets out of our feelings and recognizes again that racism is real in this country. And until we stop pretending that it's not, we will not solve the problems that we are consistently facing. And that will bring real unity that we seek when we're looking for a more perfect union.
This is just crazy. This is just crazy. You can beat these people every day if you study the issues. Quit going off identity. Quit going off race. Quit going off this, that, and the other. I guarantee you, if you have the same information that the so-called white man has, and you can beat him on that information, you can just beat him, period. It's not based on race and all this type of crap.
Ooh. Congresswoman Summer Lee, she said,
look at this sweet ass dude. What man? And I'm talking about men. I have never said, woo! Like this dude just did. This dude is sweeter than the honey on a honeycomb. He is sweeter than the honey on a honeycomb. This is unbecoming of a man. Look, this what?
I want some of that.
Look at this.
I'm not in favor of the Dismantle Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Act, or what it maybe would more aptly be called the dismantling any semblance of support or opportunity for certain American acts. We know who those Americans are. Americans who have not enjoyed centuries of unfair advantages by keeping others enslaved or segregated or disenfranchised or incarcerated or redlined or gerrymandered or excluded by law. Americans who've lived with disabilities or had their relationships criminalized or their gender expression demonized. If we're being honest here, this bill, which will wipe out every diversity, equity, and inclusion program in our federal agencies, plus those who contract with us, plus those who receive grant money, plus our schools, is nothing new. This is just the final piece of a decades-long obsession with targeting and dismantling anything that might give marginalized people a fair shot, including DEI programs, which honestly start.
Who's marginalized people? You're talking down to people. If you accept this marginalized speech, agenda, vernacular, that says something about you. I ain't marginalized at all. I'm just as capable as any of y'all. What is this marginalized?
Started the second the Civil Rights Act passed. Policies like affirmative action and diversity, equity, inclusion are the closest things we've had to the mythical bootstraps that some of my colleagues insist historically and currently harmed communities need to pick themselves up by. After centuries of efforts to keep us out of schools and universities, from jobs and elected office, Republicans targeting these policies are no accident. Why do predominantly conservative white men believe that the success of a black person or the opportunity or access of a black person is an existential threat to them? DEI is not given any unfair advantage that society itself does not already confer on certain Americans. It merely exists to ensure that all other people, that women, minoritized folks, queer folks, disabled folks, have the same opportunities to succeed and thrive in our workforce and our schools as people who have not had those opportunities systematically and legally stripped from them do. Is our country not greater when all of us have opportunities to succeed and contribute and survive? Our success and our survival as a nation is bound together. Diversity, equity, and inclusion programs only exist to band-aid over decades, hell, centuries of discrimination against people's skin color, their religion, disabilities, gender, or sexual orientations, you name it. Contrary to Republican conjecture, remedying past discrimination is not, in turn, a discrimination.
Okay, just... I don't know what the fuck she talking about. Just words. You talk about salad? Yeah, word salad. What? Summer leak? Can we make this concise and so I know you're talking to all your lawyer friends, all these people that are out here. You do realize that there's a camera and then there's a microphone that more than just the people in the room can hear you. Can you talk like, not above people? I understand what you're talking about, but you're just not saying anything. You're just putting a bunch of words together that just doesn't make any sense.
And we're not going to sit here and pretend racism is over just because one black person on the Supreme Court agreed that it should be. What DEI does not do is give some kind of magical pass to better jobs, like some of our colleagues are implying. That middle word, equity, does not mean more than or better than. It means treating people fairly and impartially. It means working to fix generational and systemic discrimination to the betterment of all of us in all of our institutions. But instead, Republicans are trying to bastardize the term DEI to be a slur. When Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson was up for confirmation and when Vice President Harris was added to the ticket, they called them DEI hires. They want you to believe that a Harvard graduate with over 20 years of experience, who happens to be a black woman, is not qualified, but a Fox News personality is qualified to run the Department of Defense, and the WWE executive is qualified to run the Department of Education. Let's be real. There is an attempt to create a direct correlation between our race, being a black person, and our qualifications. So much as to say that there is no way to be a black woman.
Just like they always do. Stand on your information, stand on your arguments, but somehow they always manage to bring Donald Trump into whatever they do. Exclude him. They always manage to bring him in somehow, some way. He's not even in office yet.
Woman, there is no resume that a black person could have that would qualify them unless that black person is a Republican, and there is a quota there. And while all of this is happening at the top level of our government, I can promise you these same things are happening on every single level of government and private sector. But those people don't have a national platform to speak out against discriminatory treatment. Where is a federal worker supposed to turn when another coworker says, all
right, so I had good intentions to sit through this nonsense. That's it. I'm done. It's enough for me.